you, everyone, for joining us this evening in conversation with the Charlotte Mason Institute's founder. It's a privilege that you're all here for this conversation. CMI is celebrating its 20th anniversary. This is our 20th conference, and we couldn't be more delighted than we are to have our founder, the Charlotte Mason Institute's founder, Dr. Carol Smith, here with us this evening.
I'm very happy to be here. It's very good to see all of you, and I wish Andy were here, but she is enjoying being out of the heat. So, yeah.
We miss her too. Andy has had a significant presence on these conferences, and I hope you'll be able to tell us a little about that, Carol. But first, we want to know how you met Charlotte Mason.
Okay. That started in the 1970s, in the latter part of the 70s. I was attending some the older ones of us will probably all know what L'Abri Fellowship is. The younger of us may not know what L'Abri Fellowship is. It was started by Francis Schaeffer. His daughter, Susan Schaeffer Macaulay, is the one who wrote the book For the Children's Sake. And it was probably the first book that came out in reference to Charlotte Mason. What had happened is that her dad had sent her and her husband to open a L'Abri in England, and they were putting their children in the government schools, and it wasn't going quite the way they wanted it to go in terms of their education. And they found an old PNEU school. Can you believe it? I don't know if that school is open. But her daughter, Fiona, I think, attended there, and she and her husband are the ones who run the Mason School in Cambridge, England. But because of the conferences at which Susan talked about Charlotte Mason and did a couple of sessions at the L'Abri conference that I attended on Charlotte Mason, I got interested because at that time I was teaching in a middle school, and it's hard to even describe how, in my mind, bad public education was. I'm not saying that to badmouth public education, because almost every teacher in the building where I was teaching was just as dissatisfied. So when you say public education, don't badmouth teachers, because many of them would love to do something different if they could. But in this situation, the reading, it's almost comical now when I look back at it. But they would have in a book, the page, there'd be a reading selection and 2 or 3 questions. And the child was to read that, and you were to ask them the questions. And if they got 2 out of 3, well, then you could go to the next page. Can you imagine learning to read that way? Where's the joy of reading in that? There was none. So, yeah, they may learn a few more vocabulary words, but the joy, the encouragement, all the things that should go along with learning weren't there. So a lot of misbehavior, a lot of boredom, a lot of just not interested in school and wanting to quit, even in 7th and 8th grade. So I just thought, I can't do this for 30 years. There's just no way I can do this for 30 years. No. But about that time, I went to one of those conferences, and Susan Schaeffer Macaulay started doing sessions on Charlotte Mason. She and Randall sent me a copy of A Philosophy Towards, an essay.
Towards the Philosophy
Philosophy of Education, got it. during that time, early on, this was the late 70s.
I need to stop you. So Susan hasn't written her book yet.
Right.
She wrote
This
it.
is the late 70s.
That's right. So you're part of her processing time.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I didn't see it that way. I was just doing what I needed to.
But you were behind her book. This is what, I think we just discovered something tonight.
No. She wrote her book completely independent of me. She was at the L'Abri in England. She and her husband were the directors at the time, I think, along with another couple. In fact, the other couple, he has spoken at our conference. Jerem Bars, one of our past conferences, and another person from L'Abri that has spoken at our conferences is
Ranald McCauley.
Ranald McCauley. But I'm thinking of Massachusetts. Where is my brain?
It's okay. We'll think of it again.
Marty and Dick Keyes. There we go. The Keyes, who are at the Southborough L'Abri in Massachusetts. He did an excellent lecture one year on imagination, which was quite good. Anyway, that's how it got started. I had gone to the L'Abri conferences, met up with Susan. We communicated off and on over the years, not a lot. I read the book that they sent, then I had to send it back. Then I got it from the Library of Congress so I could finish reading it. But I think at that point, I remember Mason saying how an idea, it takes a while for the seed of an idea to grow. And it was that way for me in terms of Mason. I began right away, in one sense of the word, to do things that she had said. I would do them in my classroom. And almost immediately, you see the difference. It's just amazing. And about that time, there were positive family situations, like we moved from Eastern North Carolina, where I was teaching, to Roanoke, Virginia, where we are now. And so a number of things like that happened in my life. And I can't remember, after we went to Roanoke, what happened. But one of the things that happened was I went to Virginia Tech, did my doctoral work, and then moved to Gardner-Webb University down near Charlotte, North Carolina.
So Carol, you've jumped ahead to the year 2000, which is when you defended your doctoral thesis on Charlotte Mason. So you're meeting her in the late 70s, into the 80s. You're being formed by L'Abri. You're being formed by Susan and Ranald and others within that community. You apply her ideas in practice in what school settings yourself?
Well, what I was just mentioning, that I would put some of her ideas into practice, was at the middle school where I was a teacher. When we moved to Roanoke, pretty quickly I became a school administrator. In that setting, we did a lot of Mason, but we didn't call it Mason. We actually, we had the freedom to do this. And what this was, is we had an assistant teacher to decide to move to another school in the same division to be closer to her mother, who was in a nursing home, and she wanted to help with her care. And we thought, can we not hire another teaching assistant, and can we have that money to buy, guess what? A whole library of living books. Wow. We spent, a teaching assistant back then didn't make very much, probably $10,000 or so. We stocked our library, as well as we did small collections of books for every classroom. And the children read all the time. We actually, I haven't thought about this in a long time, but we actually got the Virginia Reading Association Award for encouraging kids to read. And we actually would have kids take their books to the dining room and eat. I mean, eat and read. So it was a really good time because we used a lot of narration, a lot of written narration, and yeah, it was a really fun time of implementing Mason without calling it Mason.
Yeah.
So then when I left there, I went to Gardner Webb, and a couple of people had asked me to come speak on Mason. One was down in Birmingham, actually. And then one was in Charlotte. And I did it. But I told my wife, I said, I got teenagers at home. I'm not running off every weekend to be speaking to people about Charlotte Mason. I don't care how good she is. No, I'm not going to do it. But not long after that, I said to Andy, I think I have a solution. Let's have a conference. And let's invite people to come in. And let's begin to find those people who are really knowledgeable about Mason to be the speakers. Well, our first conference was in 2005. And we had some good speakers. Knowledgeable about Mason? Not sure about that. But it grew from there and really took off over the years. And there are people here in this room who were at that first conference. You see them over there. And you've seen the results.
So that's
Since then.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
The Institute didn't begin necessarily. It was the conference that was the beginning.
Right.
A question I know that we all have for you is, how then did the Institute start?
Okay, so I want to go back to Deanie's lecture today. And she was talking about how everything in life is sacred. And I believe that. But I think sometimes we want to, if what we're doing doesn't have this spiritual feel to it, we don't want to do it. Or we don't quite know what to do with it. What I would say about that is, most things in life can be difficult and not feel very spiritual and feel very unspiritual, but it does not mean that it's still not under the lordship of Christ, and it does not mean that the Holy Spirit is not guiding you. Just what we do is not based on our feelings. And we have to remember that, because there were lots of times during the beginning of CMI, I would scratch my head and say, what are you doing? But you keep going because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, but you don't. I didn't think of it as some great spiritual act. I just did the next thing that needed to be done. And I think that's what a lot of life is like. We do the next thing that we're supposed to do. But how it got started was quite by accident. I think it was probably the second conference. Somebody said to me, well, if you have money left over from this conference, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. And I went, what? Because at that point, I didn't touch the money. The money was housed at Gardner Webb University, which, by the way, is a nonprofit. I didn't know that. I didn't think about that at the time. And I went, oh, that means I got to start a nonprofit. Oh, that is such a pain. and it's to me an example of how the Lord works, even though you don't really realize it. You're not really paying attention to being spiritual. You're just, okay, I got to do this. Let's do it. So I had a friend on campus who was the business lawyer on campus, and he said, "I'll help you do it." Thank you, Lord. And he did. He helped me set it up. It had a different name at the time. I cannot even remember
Child
the
Light.
first name.
No?
No, that wasn't the first name. The first name was just something awful. I'll just tell you, it was.
All right. Okay, so we've blanked the first name from our memories.
If I had the original document, I could tell you, but it was like this long. And it was like, oh, man. And in fact, Elaine Cooper said it sounded like an android. The name did. I said, oh, Elaine, thanks. So we changed the name to Child Light USA because the Macaulays and Elaine Cooper and those guys did have a nonprofit in England called Child Light. But our good friend Cindy Swicegood's husband, many of you know Cindy Swicegood, do you? Yeah. She suggested that we change the name to the Charlotte Mason Institute. Did I have great philosophical thoughts about that? Yes. What I said was, oh, that sounds good. Let's do it. So I guess I'm just saying, don't wait for the great spiritual moment to come to you. Just do what you need to do next, because that's where the Lord is working, even though it may not feel like some great spiritual moment. So we changed the name to the Institute, and we carried on.
So I hinted at this today too. The founding of institutes means that they outlast us. Mm-hmm. The founding of organizations, the founding of schools, the founding of journals, they can outlast individuals.
We hope.
What do you see as you stand back and witness the opening of a conference like you did today and see the people pouring in by the hundreds? What does it make you think about? And what advice would you give to the rest of us based on that experience?
Well, part of it would be do the next thing that you're called to do. Whether it feels spiritual or not, just do the next thing. And I think for me, I had to, I think it was 2019, I retired, supposedly. Was that, Carrie, is that right? Yeah. And one of the reasons I did it was, if this is of the Lord and it's supposed to carry on, then the next generation needs to pick it up and go with it. And I did not want the situation where the founder is always hovering over people and trying to control every little thing that's done. I just said, no, I can't do that. It's not my organization to begin with. It doesn't belong to me. So I need to let it go, help when I can, where I can, but I need to let it go and let other younger people. I think they've done a fabulous job. I mean, they could not. I know you're going to cut that, aren't you? I could not ask for better people. Let's just put it that way. It's marvelous what they've done. And it belongs to God. So wherever he takes it, wherever he goes with it, perfect. Whatever that is, that's perfect.
Carol, that means a lot to hear you say that. There are staff members in the room that are hearing you. There are board members. There are volunteers. This is the work of hundreds of people over 2 decades and longer.
Yep.
It means a lot to hear you say that.
Well, it means a lot to me that you're doing it. Yeah. We still have a lot of work to do. There are not enough children getting this education. We need to help the poorer people. We've got to do that, because otherwise we have as you well know right now, we have And I'm convinced if many of the children today were educated with Mason's ideas, they'd be a lot better self-thinking children, and we wouldn't have the disaster that we have that's going on in this country right now. I think it improves children's critical thinking skills so much and so well. We need more children, and we need to go toward helping the very poor who don't have access to this kind of education.
CMI's motto, for all children, all educators in all settings. Before we wrap up, can you bring us back to some of those early conference days? Maybe do a little bit of compare and contrast to what the conferences look like in these days?
Do you know, I look around at the technology. I was laughing to myself today. We thought we were so far ahead. We had a spreadsheet. we were registering people with a spreadsheet. You know, you can do things with a spreadsheet, if you know what you're doing. And I look at all the stuff today, and I just think, thank you, young people, for knowing how to do this technology and just making it so much easier for people to have access. Yeah. Anything else?
I would say one of my early memories, I was present at the second conference.
I remember that.
It was you and Andy together. And again, I'm sorry she's not able to be here to be part of this conversation. But would you speak a little bit about the role that your spouse, Andy, has played in this?
I'm happy to. Every conference, she did as much as I did. Every conference, she would, I used to feel sorry for Carrie Forney. Because she would call Carrie and talk for hours on, well, what's your schedule will be? They did a marvelous job with the schedule, or schedule, I should say, with few speakers. Because one of the things that Randall McCauley said to me after the first conference, I think he was at the first one. I think he was. I went back trying to find some of the programs for that first conference.
But he was certainly at the second one that I was at.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Was John Thorley at the one? Okay.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. By the way, if you get a chance to say a prayer for John, you know that he and I finished our book in February, March on the Mason's letters, and about a month later he had a severe stroke and does not remember it. So pray for him. He's 86, 87, and he's one of the last links. He was the last president, we would call them president, they call him principal of the Charlotte Mason College. And he's, I was telling someone today, he taught Greek, but he didn't teach modern Greek. He taught Homer in ancient Greek. He knows ancient Greek. He knows ancient Latin. He edited just a year ago a group of professors' book on ancient Latin. He read over it for them to make sure they had it right.
He was an amazing man.
He was, linguistically, he was just amazing. So we're going to lose access to him before long because he's just at that age and his health is where it is.
Andy was part of enveloping all of these speakers, making everyone feel so welcome, so respected.
And she's so much better at that than I am. I mean, I just own it. She is much more the people person than I am, by far. So she would spend the time. She loved I mean, sounds so simple. Again, it's those simple things that you don't think are spiritual at all that we need to be doing. She enjoyed driving the van from Gardner Webb to the airport in Charlotte and picking people up and bringing them back to the conference. She could tell me all kinds of interesting stories that she heard along the way. But she's just that kind of person. She can get all kinds of information out of you in a few minutes.
Oh, okay, well, now we know what was really going on when we were being shuttled around. Oh, Carol, yeah. CMI wouldn't be what it is without Andy. There's no
Absolutely
question.
not.
And
No
CMI
question.
wouldn't be what it is without you.
Both of us.
And as we take a look at the Institute and all of the school leaders, all of the leading educators that are here in this place, studying, learning together, learning from one another. We have so many homegrown speakers now. That happened because you carefully stewarded this organization for these decades.
And again, I would say that happened without us being super spiritual. We just did the next thing. We had the next conference and we invited the next speakers. And then, it just works that way by doing what you're supposed to do and what you feel called to do. Don't worry about you have to worry about the details, because the details have to be right. But you can't worry every minute if you're doing the right thing or not. Yeah.
I think we are all going to go back to those wise words as CMI moves forward. Carol, anything that we should have talked about that we didn't? Any final words of
Probably,
encouragement?
But my brain is not very good these days. Yeah.
You have recently authored a very important book. Those of us that have seen Charlotte Mason's letters, her handwriting is special. And it takes very special skills to be able to decipher. And you and John have given an enormous gift to us through helping us be able to read her letters. You've helped to analyze them. That's another thing that you've done along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was fun. It was fun working with John.
You've led the way in terms of encouraging people to write, to speak, to become scholars themselves. You've encouraged a lot of further, deeper, reflective thought about Mason's ideas. And in a way, you're kind of the father, the grandfather of a lot of the emerging 21st century analysis and thought of Charlotte Mason.
Grandfather.
Yeah. Father. So on behalf of all of us at the Institute, on behalf of every attendee at this conference and all the ones in the past, we just want to say thank you, thank you,
and thank all of you. Do you know how many sessions have been given over the years? One or two people can't do that. It takes a whole community of people to do what's been done. A whole community.
We're building a body of thought that will influence the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Charlotte Mason Institute envisions relational education for every student and teacher in every setting. As a nonprofit, we equip educators like you to practice relational education through curriculum, conferences, publications, training, and research. We invite you to visit us online and follow us on social media.